Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
All right, everybody, it's Monday. It's Justin Mirigliani on You as a Whole, Body, Mind, and Soul. Good to see everybody, or at least virtually see you here on the show. And just wanted to say hi to a friend I talked to earlier today, Donna Schaefer. Donna, I hope you're watching. Good talking to you today. Hope to see you soon. Always good to have good friends. That's one of the greatest joys of my life, is to have good friends and people who have your back and people who are there to give you advice. And that is the topic of today. We're going to talk about advice. We have a growing, in my opinion, a growing problem in the world, not the United States, the world. And I don't want to say that the internet is bad, because it's not. The internet, it has a lot of great things about it. There are a lot of things that you can do with the internet that we couldn't do when I was growing up in the 80s. If there were certain things you wanted to look up, you had to go to a library and you had to find the right book and you had to go through and find the right pages. So it's much easier today to do term papers and to find what you're looking for, look up things, how to fix something in your car. And that's great. That's fine. But there's a downside to it as well. And the downside is that people are now getting a false sense of, I don't want to say superiority, but a false sense of expertise, I guess would be the better way to say it, where, a Google search is now replacing what would be expertise. And I think we're running into trouble with that. I think that's something that we really have to look at. Where we get our advice is important. Oh, we have a comment already. Good. Okay, let's go right to it. Let's take that comment. There's Donna. Looking forward to seeing you too. All right. Thanks, Donna. Cool. It's important where we get our advice. So, we're all going through situations and we've all been through situations where people are getting advice from all different types of places, and some of them are good and some of them are bad. So let's talk about this a little bit. One of the things that you'll hear on TV is 4 out of 5 dentists agree that this toothpaste, whatever it is the number one toothpaste. Now, if I hear that 4 out of 5 doctors agree, then I go with the 4 out of 5. Why? Because I believe in playing the odds, right? If you're playing blackjack and you have aces, you split them, right? And you got to know when to double down, because you're playing the odds. Now, that doesn't mean you're always going to be right. That doesn't mean that everything's going to come out perfectly, but you'd play the odds. We get on airplanes. Airplanes can crash, but they crash at an astronomically low level that you don't even think about it. You just get on the plane. We drive cars. We don't think about the risks. We just get in because relatively low that you're going to be hurt or killed in a car accident. Does it happen? Sure. I've known a few people who've been hurt, loved ones and friends who've been hurt and killed in car accidents. And it's a terrible thing, but you play the odds, right? So I'm not going to never go out. I'm not going to never drive on the road because someone has had an accident and I say, well, I can't do that now. I play hockey. Could I fall into the boards and break my neck? Sure. It's happened. It could happen to anybody. I ski. Could I fall, break my leg, tear ligaments in my knee? Done it. Crack my collarbone skiing. But you take calculated risks. If I ski 100 times and I get hurt 3 times, then it's well worth it. It's just 3 times. It's not a big deal. But when they're life-changing things, I think that's where we run into problems. And one of the things is, I don't care how good the internet is, it does not replace schooling. I'll give an example. In September, I might have mentioned this on one of the shows. I went to a weather symposium because I really like meteorology. It's really one of my favorite hobbies. And there were 20 climatologists and meteorologists there, all high level, very high educated. Some of them have been doing it for 50 years. There are a few of them that were like 75 years old that have been in meteorology for 50 years. Some of them 30 years, some of them 25 years. They all had incredible amounts of education, incredible amounts of literature that they've written themselves, peer-reviewed studies. And every single one of the 20, every single one, not one dissenter, said that climate change is real and it's man-made. Now, you can find an expert who will disagree with that. But the preponderance of evidence tells us that climate change is real and that it's at the least, partly human caused. It may, or exacerbated, at the least, maybe more than we think. So, where do you decide to get your advice? If you need legal advice, let's say, where do you go? If you're in the middle of a legal situation, do you go to a family member who's been in the same legal situation before and ask them, well, what did you do? What did your lawyer do? You could ask them that advice, but to go mainly on that advice, in my opinion, is a mistake because that's not the expert. Where do you go? You go to somebody who knows the law, somebody who practices law, somebody who's been in law school, somebody who is a lawyer, somebody who has done that job. I'm not an expert in colorectal surgery. I had my colon removed. I've been through it. I can't do the surgery though. Just because I've been through it doesn't mean that I'm an expert in it. And a lot of us try to get advice, and it's human nature. We try to get advice from people who we love and people who we trust and people who have our best interests at heart. And I believe that most people who we love and trust do have our best interests at heart. But that doesn't mean that their advice is always sound. That doesn't mean that it's always correct. I've had friends say, when you're depressed, I've had trouble in the past with depression. I've been great over the last couple of months. I've been doing really, really well. But I've struggled with depression a lot of my life. And I've had friends say, well, why don't you do drugs? Why don't you do, why don't you try a little crack? Try a little cocaine. Now, they mean well. I'm not saying that they're trying to hurt me. They're saying, hey, just give this a try. Well, is that good advice? No, it's terrible advice. I would never do it. I would never do it. Now, marijuana is a different story. Marijuana is a little bit different. I honestly have not tried it, but I would if the doctor said it was okay to mix with some of the medications that I take. Would I try marijuana? Sure. I wouldn't try cocaine. I wouldn't try heroin. I mean, so people who give you crazy advice, even some doctors. I could give you an example of a doctor, a friend of mine, who also had ulcerative colitis and still does. Went to a doctor, and the doctor said, "You know what you might want to try? Smoking." And I said, "What? What'd you say to me?" And he said, "My doctor told me to start smoking." And I said, "Why did your doctor tell you to start smoking? What was the purpose behind that incredibly weird uh, diagnosis or option?" And he said, "Well, nicotine actually has been found to help lower some of the inflammation in the colon." Are you kidding me? So what are you going to do? You're going to trade your colitis and, hopefully not, but possible colon cancer in the future for lung cancer? I mean, is that the better option? This is a doctor. This is somebody who's supposed to know better. I talked about Dr. Grundy before, and Dr. Jacalyn and I have talked about him, where he says that, oh, well, grapes are sugar bombs, and a grape is the same thing as giving a kid a Hershey bar. No, it's not. And this is a doctor who created the artificial heart. What's problematic today is the internet and, you guessed it, money. Because if there's a way to make money, people are going to try to make money, whether it's good advice or bad advice. So you can get bad advice from good sources. That's where we got to be careful. There are people who really, really believe that they're giving you good advice when it might not be good advice. You have to double check. You have to go and do more homework than just go on Google or just go on YouTube or just talk to one person. That's why you get second opinions with doctors. That's why you do check. A doctor told a family member of mine that she needed moles removed, some ridiculous number of moles, like 40 moles removed. And it turned out none of them needed to be removed by 3 other doctors. It's a bad. It's just a doctor that it's. I don't want to say a charlatan, but somebody who just doesn't know what they're doing. They seemingly are an expert, but are they? I mean, that's why we get second opinions. And I think that we got to be careful because we can make life altering decisions based on bad advice. I myself, I want to use creatine. Everybody knows me, knows that I'm into bodybuilding. I'm into powerlifting. I always will be until they're throwing dirt on top of me. I'll be 50 December 20th, so I got 18 days left in my 40s, and um, I would love to take creatine because I want to see what would happen if I took creatine. And I had 2 doctors tell me not to take creatine for my own personal health reasons. I'm not saying that creatine is bad for everyone. It might be okay for some people. It is a well researched supplement, and the again preponderance of evidence says that it's fine for most people. But in my situation, it might not be. So I don't take it. Why? Because more than one expert told me not to take it. Now, do I have friends in the gym that say, oh, you're fine. It's no big deal. Just take it. It's just creatine. It's not going to hurt you. Yeah. Do they want me to get hurt? Do they want me to have kidney damage? Do they want me to have depression or have mixed with my medication? No, they don't want to see me hurt. They're not trying to give me bad advice. They're trying to give me good advice. They think that it's going to be helpful. It's going to make you bigger. It's going to make you stronger. It's going to give you what you want. But at the end of the day, the experts are the experts. And that's why we go to them. That's why they exist. I'm not an expert in very many things. I'm an expert in really a couple of things. One is different computer programs. I'm an expert in Excel. Now, does that mean I know everything there is to know in Excel? No. That means I passed the expert test. That's all. That just means I passed the expert test. Do I know every single formula that there is in Excel? Well, if any human being tells you that they do, they're lying. They don't. There's over probably 500 of them in the program. So no, I don't know them all. Am I an expert in PowerPoint? Yes. Am I an expert in Word? So all these, yes. All these programs, yes. But I'm not an expert, even as much as I know about physiology, kinesiology. I would not consider myself an expert. I didn't go to school for it. I didn't study for it. As much as I know about meteorology, as much as I uh, study it, and as much as I enjoy it, and as much as I read about it, and as much as I just try to soak in as much as I can, I would not consider myself an expert on it. Now, do I go out and predict on my weather page, uh, make predictions on storms? Yeah, I do, because I have the knowledge to make educated predictions. That doesn't make me an expert. There are people who are better than me who are experts. And part of my forecasts rely on those people too. A lot of it's a conglomeration. And I make this no secret at all. People say, well, do you make your predictions based solely on model runs and your own thoughts? No, I don't. I don't. I know probably 30 to 40 meteorologists, both pros and amateurs, and I know their tendencies. Some of them have a bias towards a warm bias where they think every storm is going to be too warm to snow. And every storm, they're like, it's going to be rain. It's going to be rain. It's going to be rain. And then you have other ones who it looks like it's going to be 50 degrees outside, according to most of the models. And they're saying, yeah, but there's a pool of cold air that'll rush in and we're going to get a big blizzard. And you know that both of them are wrong. You just know it. They're doing it for ratings. They're doing it for ratings. And then you have some that are in the middle. So what you do is you learn the tendencies of each one of these people. And that's where you start to make your forecast. So you look at the models, you look at the tendencies of these different forecasters, you know their biases, and you put them all together, and that's how you come up with a forecast. That's how I do it. Now, some people might say that's cheating. Is it? I'm doing the research. I'm the one who's reading all the pages, reading everybody's prediction. I'm the one who's looking at the models. I'm the one who's taking into consideration the biases of the models, the biases of the predictor, the forecasters, the pros, and the really, really good amateurs. There's some really good amateurs out there. So, I try to get my advice from as many sources as I possibly can that I trust. Now, can you get good advice from bad sources too? Yeah, you can. What if somebody's a heroin addict? That's not good. I don't think anybody would say that's a good thing. But what if you bumped into a heroin addict and the heroin addict said to you, listen, whatever you do, never do heroin. Don't be like me. Is that bad advice? Now, the source isn't the greatest source in the world because they're doing heroin, but they're giving you good advice. So that's where you have to look at, where is this advice? Do the research. Does it make sense? What's the evidence behind it? What's the science behind it? Because science pretty much drives everything. And then you make your decisions. And then we have another comment. So please, let's get the comments. Oh, thank you very much. Is it Hardy? Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. It's tough, and I know I how many doctors, like I said, Dr. Grundy's one of them that really annoys me with that stuff. Dr. Drew Papinski, I think his name is helping to hawk that stuff for what do they call it? I can't remember now what it's called, but it's this thing that you don't have to work out anymore. You don't have to eat right. All you have to do is take this stuff and you're going to be fine. That's been around since the 1800s, probably 1700s. This special elixir that's going to fix everything. Or Dr. Oz with these special vitamins that will take the place of exercise and diet. And then and then you see that he actually has said in the past nothing will ever take the place of exercise and diet. And it won't. It can't. Because everybody would look the same way. Nobody would have any problems. Nobody would have health problems if all these things work. And then Dr. Jacalyn says, for our health, we have to be our own advocates. I absolutely agree. I take what my doctor tells me and get a second, third opinion and do my own research. That's exactly what you should be doing. That's exactly what you should be doing. There's no doubt about it. But a Google search is not alone going to take the place of an expert, whether it's law, whether it's medicine, whether it's engineering, whether it's meteorology. No matter what it is, you're not going to become an expert, whether it's martial arts. I mean, you can name anything you want. You want to learn the guitar, you want to learn the piano, you're not going to learn it just by watching videos. You can learn some things, but there are going to be holes. You're not going to have all the holes filled because you're not learning it from an instructor. If that were true, I wouldn't have a job. I wouldn't have a career. I wouldn't have a business. It would be done. We need these things. We need people to be experts in different fields, and we need to know when to stay in our own lane, and we need to know when to back off. I'm shooting a documentary with a friend of mine, John Paxton, and John and I have been shooting this since 2018. It's called Keenan's Kids. It's about the 1984 to 1988 Flyers, which was the team that I fell in love with. I fell in love with hockey from that team. And John and I have worked on this since 2018. And people might say, well, you're crazy. 2018. It's 2024. Well, there's COVID that was in there, number one. Number two, it takes money. It's not the kind of thing that you could just pay, $25 and shoot a really good professional documentary. You need hundreds of thousands of dollars to be raised. So, why did I hook up with John? Well, because he's got ideas as a filmmaker, because that's what he does. He teaches film, I believe, at Rutgers now. He also is a filmmaker himself and has made his own documentaries. So I teamed up with him, and when we talk hockey, he defers to me. He defers to me and says, Justin, what do you think is exciting about this or that moment? Or what would be grabbing the audience here? What would be grabbing the audience there on the hockey side of things? Because he wasn't a hockey fan. He didn't grow up a hockey fan. And I, on the other hand, defer to John when I say, John, how should we shoot this? How long should it be? What should the trailer look like? How do you want to edit the trailer? We got the trailer. It's on YouTube if anybody wants to see it. Just type in Keenan's Kids documentary. Keenan Kids, Kids documentary. And it will come up, and the trailer's up there. But he's got his niche. He knows what he's doing when it comes to shooting. He's got a sound person who comes. When we shot at our house, we shot 8 hours. We had Mark Howe and Brian Propp, Doug Crossman, and Turk Evers over at my home in Cherry Hill at the time. And we shot for about 8 hours. And we had a sound person, and we had a video person. We had John as the director, and me asking the questions, and me directing part of the hockey talk and deciding how we were going to do things. We did a table scene where we sat down with these stars that who would have thought that as a 10-year-old, people that I idolized, I watched them on the ice and I wanted to be them so bad. I mean, and it never didn't happen, and it never was going to happen. But, what were the odds that I'd be sitting at a table in my own home and these guys would be sitting around and we'd be sharing a meal together, talking hockey? And that's going to be in the documentary, that conversation at the table, not the whole thing, but bits and pieces of it. But my point is, I defer to the expert, John. What should be in? What should be out? What should be on the cutting room floor? What should be in? Because he's the expert in it. He's the one who knows better. I don't get legal advice from my doctor. I don't get medical advice from my lawyer or my accountant. I get my advice from the right person or the right people. And again, the problem is that we sometimes get out of our lane because we do searches or we look for things and we find things that may or may not be true. I'll give you another one. Vegetables and fruit and vegetables. I know that they have pills out there where you can get all of the minerals that you need from fruits and vegetables. All of them. Everything. No, you can't. You have to eat the fruits and vegetables. There's no substitute for that. That's what you have to do. If you want to be healthy, you have to eat healthy. There aren't pills that are magic that fix everything. Even pharmaceuticals. I'm not saying pharmaceuticals are perfect either, because there's side effects with drugs. We've had this debate before when people have the COVID vaccine debate or vaccine debate period, where some people are like, no, vaccines are terrible for you. Okay, I got one word for you, polio. Do we want polio back? Are vaccines bad? Now, are there going to be a percentage of people who are harmed by the vaccines? Sure. There are. Seatbelts. I have a cousin who was killed because of a seatbelt, not protected by the seatbelt. The seatbelt actually lacerated her liver, and she died from the liver injury, from having the liver injury. So it was the seatbelt that actually caused her to pass away. If she wasn't buckled up, there's a possibility she might have survived the accident. So what do you say then? Do you say that oh, well, then nobody should wear a seatbelt because someone died wearing a seatbelt? Well, yeah, but if it saves 30, 40, 50,000 lives a year and kills 2 people, then it's worth it. It's the roll of the dice. You go with what's most likely to happen. Most of us watching the show, including me, wouldn't jump out of an airplane. Some would. Some of you out there probably have done it, and some would do it anytime and love it, and that's great. And you know what the odds that you're going to get killed are? Virtually zero. Virtually zero. Does that mean no one has ever gotten killed jumping out of an airplane in a parachute? No, it happens. But the odds are slim. So when somebody says to me, "Well, parachuting is super dangerous," it's actually not. It's not super dangerous at all. It's scary if it's something you've never done before. It's something that is out of the ordinary, which makes us nervous. But if you want to really look at it, if you got the advice and somebody says to you, "Oh, you don't want to jump out of an airplane, there's a good chance you're going to get killed." No, there's not. There's a way, way higher chance that you're going to be fine and have a good time and enjoy it. Or maybe if you don't enjoy it, at least you'll have said you've done it. So, how do we get our advice? Where do we get our advice? Who do we talk to? Who do we trust? It's not easy. I don't have all the answers. I can't tell you. I've given bad advice before. I've given good advice before. I've done both. And if I've given bad advice, the first thing I do is find that person and talk to them and tell them that I gave them bad advice. Because I'm not perfect and I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to say things that are wrong and I'm going to, science will change too. That's another thing that we have to remember. Science changes. Are eggs good for you? Are eggs not good for you? Are eggs good for you? Are eggs not good for you? How many years have we been going through that? Eggs will give you cholesterol problems. Eggs are great for your health. Eggs are not good for your health. Eggs will cause heart problems. Eggs are great for you. They're good for your bones. We've been going through that a lot. Science changes because we learn new things. It doesn't mean it was a lie. It doesn't mean the first things that came out were a lie. In the 1970s, they were calling for an ice age. And people point to that now. And they say, well, then climate change isn't real because they thought it was an ice age. Now they're changing their mind. They're not changing their mind. That's not how science works. It's not about changing your mind. It's about learning new stuff that changes what the outlook is. There's a humongous difference between waffling and following the science. And we got to keep that in mind. That's important to remember because if we don't, we're going to wind up in a lot of trouble. I think we have another comment, so please, let's see what it is. Hey, Rachel's back. All right, welcome back, Rachel. So I learned in my master's degree class that you should get advice or answers from peer-reviewed articles. Totally agree with that. I go to Harvard Business Review for professional advice and answers. What are your thoughts on TED Talks? I think most TED Talks are great. I think a lot of them are really, really good. And Rachel, thank you again for joining in. I appreciate it. Always good to have you. Yeah, most of the TED Talks are really, really good. I agree with a lot of the ones that I've seen. Simon Sinek. Just trying to think of some of them off the top of my head. I'm drawing a blank. There's every night, every single night, I go to bed and stay and all night long it's on. It's called I think it's called Stoic Human, or it's about being stoic, not to the point where you're unfeeling, but it teaches you how to manage your feelings. And there are some things in there that I agree with, and there are some things in there that I personally disagree with. Like one of the things that they say that I disagree with is don't ever show vulnerability. I think that's wrong. I think it's okay to show vulnerability. I think if you show vulnerability, that shows that you're human. That shows other people that they can be vulnerable too, and they can struggle and see that you struggle, and they know it's okay. You know that it's a bunch of podcasts and they're long. Some of them are 7 hours, so they're on all night. I listen to them all night, every night. Not always the same ones, obviously. There are different ones, but they have other ones that have really been life changing for me. And one of them is that you can't control what happens outside of your mind, but you can control what happens inside your mind. I can't control what's happening to me. I can't control whether I get sick or not. When I had colitis, I couldn't control that. There was nothing I could do. But in my mind, I could have been better, and I wasn't as good as I would have been now. I could have been better, at controlling my thoughts and putting things into perspective. Whereas I let my imagination run away with me sometimes, and I projected the worst. I did that when I had to get the ostomy. I projected the worst. What was the worst thing that was going to happen? The worst thing that was going to happen was I was going to have an ostomy, and I'd be a disgusting person, and it would be horrible, and my life would be over, and I would never be able to ski again. I never lift another weight. I'd never skate on the ice again. It was all done. Everything's done, and my life's over at 40. It's not true. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. And I got different advice because the show's about advice, right? I had different advice. I mean, some advice was, Justin, don't ever lift over 5 pounds. Never lift over 5 pounds. The most I've lifted since I've had the ostomy, I bench pressed 385 pounds. I've leg pressed 800 pounds for reps. So the equivalent of about 1,000 pounds with the hernia because you do get hernias with ostomies. Now, why do I do this? You might say, well, you got a hernia. That was dumb, right? That was stupid. You should have taken the advice. You shouldn't have lifted the weights. Well, here's the thing. My surgeons, the surgeon who did the operation and my current surgeon who checks me up every year or so, they said, live your life. They said, you're going to get a hernia. They said, you could sneeze and get a hernia. You could brush your teeth and get a hernia. You could cough and get a hernia. You could stand for too long and get a hernia. If I want to get a hernia, I'm going to do it doing something I want to do. I'd rather get it lifting weights than I was standing in line at the supermarket and I popped a hernia. So why would I do that? Why would I play hockey? Could I get it worse? Yeah, sure. Somebody could run into me and they could really hurt me. I'm going to live my life. And if I have to have another surgery sometime, I'll get another surgery sometime. So Dr. Jacalyn asks, what about the endless unsolicited advice people give without us asking? Yeah, I mean, that's a frustrating thing. I mean, I think that people do give us advice that is unsolicited a lot. I think people sometimes believe they know more than they really do, as I said before, and we're not particularly asking for the advice. Yeah, the you should. Yeah, there's a lot of that. When I had colitis, I heard that a lot. You should drink this. You should eat this. This will cure it. You should. And then I go back to my doctor and I would ask him, I'd say, listen, Dr. Prieto, who's an amazing gastroenterologist at Jefferson Hospital in Philadelphia, who saved my life. He found the precancerous cells. If not, I probably would have had colon cancer at some point, and who knows what would have happened then. But I would go to Dr. Prieto and say, Dr. Prieto, somebody's saying you should do this. Should I? He would say, no, don't do that. Don't do that. This is one of the preeminent GIs in the world, let alone Philadelphia, the world. My surgeon, live your life, Dr. Michael Harris, the preeminent, until he retired, preeminent colorectal surgeon in the world, studied under Dr. Crone. Dr. Saror, who took his place, she's a chief colorectal surgeon in Inglewood Hospital right outside of New York. And I went to see her November 1st for a checkup. And she said, keep doing what you're doing. She said, yeah, you got a hernia. She said, you're going to get one anyway. She said, everybody who's got an ostomy is going to get a hernia. So she said, you could get a hernia coughing, sneezing, laughing. You get a hernia doing anything. So why not get a hernia doing what you want to do? So that's what I do. She said, can you make it worse? Yeah, you can. Will you need surgery down the line? She can't tell me that for sure. She can't say to me, no, never. She can't say to me, yeah, you definitely will. She said, maybe you will. Maybe you won't. What science is coming down the line? Will I have an internal ostomy at some point? Will they come up with a way that it's internal instead of external, instead of an external bag? Sure. That could happen. That might happen. So we don't know. We don't know what's coming up in the future. But whose advice am I going to take? Am I going to listen to the checkout guy at the supermarket, or the engineer, or the the line person outside for their medical advice over Dr. Soror or Dr. Harris? Of course not. That would be crazy. You know, and people are trying to be helpful. I know it sounds like I'm being negative and I'm saying that, people shouldn't give advice. I'm not saying that at all. If you have good advice to give it. It's okay. Unsolicited might be a problem unless you say, hey, listen, if you're interested, I have a piece of advice for you. That's different. Instead of just saying, you know what you need to do, or you know what you should do, because not every piece of advice is right. And we got to disseminate what's right and what's wrong. Where do you get your information? I know people talk about the media. I was a communications major, but I specialized in journalism. I did radio. I've done TV with QVC. I was on QVC for 2 years. Obviously here on USA Global TV and Radio for several years. I was the voice of my basketball team at Cabrini College. So I have communication, a background in journalism, a background in um, media. And I will tell you this, what's drummed into your head when you're in journalism class is that honesty is huge. So people are so quick to say that the mass media lies, that they're telling us all lies, that everything's a lie, everything's a conspiracy, everything's, what you see is not really what you see. And that's just not true. Most people don't lie. Are there liars? Yes, there are. And the problem is trying to figure out the wolves from the sheep. Sometimes you think somebody's right, like Dr. Grundy. I go back to him. Here's a guy who made the artificial heart. So you think, wow, created the artificial heart. Got to be an expert, must know everything there is to know, or at least most things there is to know about health. And then goes and says that grapes are just as good or as bad, I guess, as a chocolate bar. You might as well give your kid a chocolate bar as opposed to grapes. It's the same thing. It is not the same thing. They're two distinctly different things. In fact, a doctor was interviewing him at the time, and the doctor said, "Are you crazy to say something like that?" And that's really frustrating to me, because that leads people into making decisions that can be harmful. Do you want to give your kid chocolate bars every day for lunch? I don't. I have a 13-year-old. I have an 18-year-old and a 13-year-old. My 18-year-old daughter, she can eat what she wants whenever she wants. She's 18. I can't tell her what to do. She's 18. 13-year-old, I can. I told her, you got to stop eating ice cream for breakfast, because she was eating ice cream for breakfast every day. I said, ice cream isn't breakfast. You got to eat healthier than that. Now, the kid is an amazing athlete. She just is. I don't know where it came from. I'm not an amazing athlete. I'm a decent athlete. Yes, I do have some good genetics on the muscular side. I got lucky in some places, not all places. Like I said before in old shows, my arms, I'm genetically gifted in the arms. Calves, not so much. Chest, okay, but not great. Shoulders, pretty decent. But my arms, I grew 20-inch arms without any kind of performance enhancing drugs. That's not impossible, but it's about the tip of what a human being can do. That's just genetic lottery right there. That's all that is. It's the hard work too, no doubt about it. But that's hitting a genetic lottery. If I didn't have that genetics, I don't care how much weights I lifted, it's not going to make the arms grow. Now, like I said, my chest, I can do the same amount of work, and I'm not going to get the same results that I get in my arms, because genetically my chest isn't the same. I'm not as gifted there in that part of my body. My legs are not extremely muscular, but are extremely strong. Like I said, I could leg press well over 1,000 pounds. But to look at them, they look muscular, but they're not like bodybuilder-ish. So, it's all different people, all different things, all different bodies. So one piece of advice for one person might not be the best piece of advice for another. And as Dr. Jacalyn said, a lot of people buy into those things on Instagram and what these doctors are telling us. And she says, thanks for telling the truth. And I'm happy to tell the truth, because it's unfortunate that people use their fame and fortune to try to gain more fame and fortune, to tell you things because they use their quote expertise to then try to sell something that really doesn't. They lose their way. Some people just lose when they see dollar signs and they see, man, there's an opportunity here, then everything's out the window. All morals, all ethics go out the window. Listening to people. I go back, one of my heroes is Roger Beaujolais. Too bad. I'm so disappointed. I've never had the chance to meet Roger Beaujolais. I know his family. I've talked to the Beaujolais family. Now, Roger Beaujolais was an engineer from Morton Thiokol in 1986. He was the one who knew, not guessed, knew that the O-rings that were the seals for the solid rocket boosters for the space shuttles were faulty, that they were not going to be able to hold under 53 degrees. Because in 1985, they had a launch and it was 53 degrees Fahrenheit and there was blow by, which means that the O-rings did not seal because it was too cold and it burned through. And if you have burn through, what could happen is what happened with Challenger. There was blow through. Once the blow through happened, it was like a welder's torch that was going into that main rocket. If you remember, if you're old enough to remember, if you look it up, you can find it's all over YouTube. There's a big orange tank. It's a bomb, really, that the shuttle was riding on. And as that O-ring left, as that O-ring blew out, which it did on liftoff, it allowed flame to continue to go through until it finally pierced that big orange tank. And that's where it caused an explosion. The Space Shuttle Challenger didn't explode. It broke up. It didn't explode, which is sad because if it would have exploded, it would have killed all those people instantly. Those 7 people were alive for that whole trip down for 2.5 minutes of falling because it wasn't an explosion. The explosion was what you saw, the cryogenic gases and everything. But the shuttle, although not intact, didn't explode. It disintegrated. So the crew cabin was still working. Now, why am I bringing this up when we're talking about advice? Because the night before the launch, Roger Beaujolais pounded on his desk, jumped up and down, begged, along with other engineers in Morton Thiokol, but especially Roger Beaujolais. And he said, please don't launch tomorrow. It's going to be 30-something degrees. That shuttle's going to explode tomorrow. He went home to his wife, Roberta, who also has sadly passed away. And he said to Roberta, she said, how was your day, Roger? And he said, great, except we're going to kill 7 people tomorrow. He was the expert. He was the one who engineered these solid rocket boosters. He's the one who found the faulty O-rings. They didn't want to listen. He was the expert. They didn't listen. And he told a story that when he watched it take off, he breathed a sigh of relief because he thought it was going to blow up on the pad. He thought it was going to explode on the pad, and it didn't. What it did do was it burned through the O-rings on the pad. You see black puffs of smoke come out. Right then and there, that was when they were burned out. Now, why didn't it explode right away? Because there was some sludge that got caught between the hole where the O-rings were and where the fire was coming out. So it got sealed again. Luckily, it was just happenstance that it got sealed. So it wound up being able to take off. But what happened was that sludge that got stuck there, once they got up and there were G-forces and crosswinds, that sludge dislodged. And once that happened, boom, the flame went through, hit the orange tank, and you saw what happened. Or at least if you were too young to know what happened, look up Space Shuttle Challenger and you'll see it. But it all comes back to Roger Beaujolais the night before. And Roger thought he's such a hero. He called out Morton Thiokol, he called out NASA, and he told them they were wrong. And he did for the rest of his life, he gave speeches on ethics and on how to do things. NASA's answer to Roger Beaujolais was, what do you want us to do? Launch in April? They were annoyed because they didn't want to have to wait. And this is the kind of stuff that we get in trouble with when we make snap decisions based on things that we don't know enough about. Why not wait a day? Why not wait until it went up in Florida to 60 degrees, 70 degrees? Was it going to be 38 degrees for a month in Florida? Of course not. It was a cold front that went through. A couple days later, it was going to warm up. It was Florida. Why not wait? You got an expert telling you that there's a problem. So I'm not telling you that all advice is bad. I'm not telling you that listening to your family and friends' advice is bad. I'm not telling you that doing Google searches and going on the internet is bad. But you got to do more than just those things. You have to talk to experts. You got to know the sites that you're going to. What websites are they? Is it the National Weather Service? Or as Rachel said, is it Harvard? I mean, that makes a difference. If it's financial, is it the Wall Street Journal? I mean, that matters. Is it a peer-reviewed study? Is it not a peer-reviewed study? Is it a hypothesis? What BCAAs, branched chain amino acids? There's some potential link between that and getting ALS. If you take branched chain amino acids, there's a higher instance of ALS in athletes, and they are not sure yet whether it's because of the branched chain amino acids or whether it's because of repeated head injuries. They don't know. They're not sure, but there is a higher instance of ALS in athletes who take those drugs. So, not drugs, but supplements. Sorry, I was using that as a light because we're having some light problems here. So we don't know. We don't know. So if you ask me, if you said, Justin, should I take branched chain amino acids? I tell you, take them at your own risk. They may be safe. They probably are, but they might not be. They might cause in some people ALS. We don't know. Rachel's another comment, please, Rachel. Sinek is good. Yeah, Simon Sinek is just amazing. I think he's a wonderful guy. Comes down to what I think the biggest problem is: lack of leadership. All tragedies stem from lack of leadership. And she said that's another show. Yeah, I mean, we could do a show on lack of leadership. There is a lack of leadership. I think we have a lot of people who want to drive that aren't ready to drive yet. We all did that as kids. I wanted, I grew a beard in 10th grade. It looked terrible. But why did I do it? Because I wanted to look older. I wanted to be older. I wanted to be more mature, right? Now I'm almost 50. Now it's more appropriate to have a beard than it would be at 15, 16. It didn't come in right. It's not the right time. Or leading a group of people. I took a 6-month course to become a project management expert, and I passed all the tests. But I had to take the course. I had to pass the tests. If I failed the tests, then I wouldn't get the credentials, and I have them on LinkedIn for a project management expert. I could teach project management classes. So, I mean, it's not that I just did some research on my own and said, hey, I'll just, become a project management expert. I actually did the work, and that's what you have to do. Donna has a comment. Please, Donna, be happy to. Agreed, she said. We throw around the word leader way too much. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with being a follower. I actually spoke to Donna tonight, and she was an ear for me tonight. And I appreciated it very much because I was having a problem with something. And we had gone to Cabrini together for a long time. She was one of my first Cabrini friends. We met in 1993, and we lost touch for a while, but thankfully we got to reconnect over the probably in May, I think it was. And tonight, Don and I had a half an hour conversation about certain topics. I won't get into details, but I was going through a problem, and she gave me perspective, and I took her advice. I listened to her advice because I respect her. I know her. I know where her heart is. And it was the right advice. And it made me feel better. And that's what special people in your life do. Rachel, same thing. She every week calls in and adds to the show. These are special people. Dr. Jacalyn is a special person. She reaches out. She's there for you. She look what she did with this television station. Look what she's done. This is around the world, and we're growing like crazy. And why are we growing? Because of her leadership. And for somebody like me, I'm happy to follow. I defer to her for her expertise. I deferred to Donna tonight for her advice. I didn't say, no, Donna, I disagree with you. I took her advice to heart, and it was helpful. And I think that's important, that we learn sometimes when to give up the wheel, when to say, all right, look, somebody knows better than me. My father is a lawyer, retired, but a lawyer. When I have a legal question, I go to him. He's a lawyer. Now, if my dad was a dentist, I wouldn't go to him with legal questions. I would go to him with dental questions. So, I mean, that's we really have to understand where we are and what we are. I am not a well-rounded person. I think I mentioned this in another show. I know we're getting ready to wrap up too, so I'm going to make this quick. But Dr. Jacalyn says you are a leader. I thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Yes, you can lead and follow. Yeah, yeah. And being coachable is extremely important. And you know what else is extremely important now that Dr. Jacalyn has brought that up? Not only being coachable, but being able to take constructive criticism and accept constructive criticism. I'm not saying bad, negative negative or brutal honesty. Simon Sinek says this. We can be honest, but we don't need to be brutal. Now, this is not, I'm quoting him, Simon Sinek. He says, we can be honest, but where do we get the idea that we have to have brutal honesty? And his example is, if somebody comes to you and says, do these jeans make me look fat? Your answer could be, I like those other jeans better. Not, yes, they make you look fat. You can be honest without being brutal. And that's important when you're giving advice, constructive criticism. There should be no negative criticism. It should always be constructive. It should never be negative. I teach a class on that. It may be something that people have to change. It may be something that where you're changing their behavior, but you're doing it because you care about them. You're doing it and you say, I care about you. I love you. I want you to get better. I want you to do better. I want you to be the best you that you can be. So I'm giving you this constructive criticism. It's not a knock. Yeah, if it's true, it's going to hurt. It does. When I get a review after a class, and there's something negative in the review or something that is well, hopefully it's constructive, but sometimes it could be nasty, it could be negative. Does it sting? Well, if it's true, it might sting, but if it's not true, it doesn't bother me. It rolls right off my back. It's not something that's going to drive me crazy. But yeah, I think we do have to be coachable, and I think a lot of us, you got to swallow your pride sometimes. Don, another comment, please. I'm no expert, but I'll find them for you and always here to listen. Thank you so much, Donna. And the same here. Same here. Donna is an expert on more than you think, but you are, Donna. And you know what the most important thing is? To give advice in a caring way, in a way where you want someone to be good and to be okay and to not harm them. And if you make a mistake, fix it. I've posted stuff on Facebook that was erroneous. It was my fault. I fell for something. Everybody makes mistakes. You know what I did? I took it down and then I posted, and I've done this maybe 5-6 times. I'm not saying I do it all the time, but over, I don't know how many years I've been on Facebook, 15 years. Have I posted something that was incorrect? Yeah. So what do? I take it down and then I post another post and say, I'm sorry, I posted wrong information. This is the correction. My fault. I take it on me. I did it. So take it. Are you open to having oh, yes, absolutely. Having guests on the show would be wonderful. I would love to have guests and have give and take on the shows. I know Dr. Jacalyn and I do that from time to time. But Donna or Rachel or anybody else who's watching, anybody who would like to be a guest on the show, you're more than welcome, and we could have any kind of conversation you want. In fact, I'm open to whatever topics you want to talk about, because remember what the show's all about. It's you as a whole, body, mind, and soul. So it might be about your body, it might be about your mind, it might be about your spirit, your soul. And I'm willing to talk about any of that with you. So, and as you can see here up on the screen, you can book a session. We'd love to have you. And maybe Donna or Rachel or any of our other viewers who want to be a part of it around the world. Remember, we're all over the place. We're in London, we're all over Europe, we're everywhere. So please don't be afraid to be a part of it. So as we end tonight, I just want to remind you, as we end every show, it's getting closer now. We're getting closer to 2025, and we're going to have the NHL Celebrity Hockey Game coming up to help those with Crohn's, colitis, and an ostomy. And my goal right now is to raise $100,000, and I think it's well within our reach. That's my business website that's up there. That's just for you training. That I do corporate training. I train people on computer programs, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Visio, project management as well. I do soft skills, time management, conflict management, things like that. So please reach out. It's JUSTFORYOU TC.com. And my email address there is justin@justforyoutc.com. And here's the website for the charity. This one is really near and dear to my heart. It's Checkmates Charitable Association. We're helping Rolf Anershka, who was a former kicker in the NFL, who kicked with an ostomy for 7 years. And that was the first person whose story gave me hope that I would one day be able to, and there was Dr. Prieto in the film, which is amazing to me. But it was one of the first, Rolf Anershka's story was the one that made me know that I was going to be okay, that I was going to live an okay life. And he was right. So August 23rd, 2025, we're going to have NHL players, superstars. We're going to have Mark Recchi, Brian Pratt, possibly Kevin Dean, possibly Rod Brindamore, Chris Terrian, Todd Fedoruk, Doug Crossman. We're going to have all these former Flyers, and a bunch of guys like me are going to get to skate with them, and we're going to split the pros up on different teams and have a knockout, drag 'em out game with the pros on 4 pros on one side, 4 pros on the other to make it nice and even. It's going to be a fun game. We're going to have a great time. And then afterwards, guess what we're going to have? We're going to have a party with a 2-hour open bar. 2-hour open bar. And we're going to have comedy, possibly by Joe Conklin. We're going to have Lauren Hart there at the party. She's the best anthemist in the NHL. We're going to have a buffet with the players. They're going to sign autographs. We're going to have music, a band. There'll probably be dancing room, I think, unless we sell out the joint. Maybe there won't be enough room. I would like that to happen, by the way. But we're going to have, we have room for 1,000 people in the rink. The tickets for the rink are $25 just to come to the game. If you just want to come to the game and no dinner, $25. That's it. For a good cause. And you can see really good hockey. It's not NHL caliber hockey, but it's really good hockey with NHL caliber players. And that's for the game. If you want to come to the game and the dinner, it's only $70. That's it. Open bar. Most people would just come for the open bar for $70 in dinner. But now you're going to be there with all these stars, with all these dignitaries. Kerry Fraser, famous referee in the NHL, he might be there if his schedule permits. That's the only one thing that's hard with when you're working with celebrities is that their schedules sometimes can change. But they've all said that they're going to give it their best shot to be there, and I trust them. I take them at their word, and I hope you will too. But let's watch this little vignette of past games, and then we'll come back and wrap things up.
Special evening. Crohn's and colitis are terrible diseases, and they affect a lot of people, not only in the Delaware Valley, but all over the world. And hopefully we can find a cure someday.
Checkmates, Varsity Flyers alumni. We had a great time this afternoon. Game was close, and we're all here for Checkmates Charities, which is the real reason that everybody's here, not only the players, but all the fans that were here. It was a great day, and we're really happy to be here.
It was fun to be out here at Northeast Skate Zone because the Checos were a pretty good team, and so we had a lot of fun with the charity. And it was good because they took it easy on us old guys. So we had a good time. So anytime you can do something for charity, and I know a couple guys on the other team, and just to be on the rink, we all go have fun.
Good times go. I'm either gone in an instant or here to the bitter, and I never know what I got.
I want to thank my family for all that they did to help me get through this, and there's a lot of planning that get done. It has to get done. I want to thank Nick's Roast Beef and Common Avenue for all they've done. Dr. Prieto for saving my life and finding the disease and treating me for so long. And the Flyers organization for all they do to help us raise money every year. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
I'll see you when I'm gone. I'll see. Baby, I'm ready to go. Baby, I'm ready to go. Baby, I'm ready to go.
So if you want to get pre-order tickets, you can email me at Justin at checkmatescharity.com. I'm almost done with the Eventbrite page. It's taking me a while to build it because there's certain intricacies that have to be done, but they'll be done soon. And they make great Christmas gifts. $70. That's it. 25 to the game, 70 for dinner. And we're going to have a great time. A lot of celebrities, a lot of fun, and we're going to help a lot of people. And we're looking for corporate partners too. If you're any corporations out there that want to help us and get more value, I'm trying not to get sponsors. I want partners. I want to give you more value than what you put in. I want to give you 4 to 10 times your return on investment, and I can do that. So please consider that. And you can email me again at Justin at checkmatescharity.com. I want to thank everybody, especially Dr. Jacalyn. I want to thank Donna. I want to thank Rachel and Antoinette. I know who was there with Rachel and all of us. Rachel, she ends with, can I check Kerry Fraser into the boards? Kerry's the referee, so no, you cannot check Kerry Fraser. One of the most wonderful people you will ever meet. Goes to church every single day. One of the kindest people. When I've gone through some hard times in my life, he's called me to see how I'm doing. And one time, I'll just make this real quick. We talked for an hour, and he hung up, and I didn't expect, to hear from him for a while. And 5 minutes later, the phone rings, and he said, I forgot to pray with you. And he actually said, can we sit and pray for 5 minutes on the phone? And we did. And this is a guy who referees in the NHL. He knows Wayne Gretzky like it's his family. He knows Mario Lemieux. He knows names that are huge. And he's on the phone praying with Justin MIRIGLIANI, really? So, I mean, wow, what a person to be able to do that. So Kerry Fraser is near and dear to my heart. And I can't wait to see him. I'm looking forward to it. So, all right, everybody, getting rocking and rolling again next week. I don't know what the subject's going to be yet, but I'll come up with something. And if anybody wants to be a guest, let us know. Have a great rest of the week.